Dr. Sean T. Smith.
Rich, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. It's good to see you back. I know
Yeah.
you're off this week. Looks like you're broadcasting from the office today.
Yeah, we got a new house and the home studio's not set up. Everything's in disarray. So I'm at the office and the internet here kind of sucks. So if things get bad and I get choppy, tell me and I will cut the video and we'll go to audio only.
Cool. And we've got a brand new setup here on my end in my studio. So I got a new mic and mixer, and I'm going to be running Blog Talk tonight. So we'll be able to take actual call-ins again, which we did in the early shows, but the soft new setup didn't really work. And in my studio, so I got a new mic. I'm getting feedback. Is that coming from your end?
Yep, I fixed it.
Cool. All right. So what I'll do is I will post the number. I did a trial run yesterday and it went really well. So this will be the first live stab at it. So I'll post the number here if you guys want to call in. Kind of the opening talk we were going to do is, are materialistic women a red flag? If there's any problems with my audio, by the way, let me know what your experience is on the watching end. Sean and I were talking before we went live, and it seemed to kind of dip in and out. So I might have to troubleshoot it a little bit after this broadcast. But let me know if the audio is good on your viewing end. Sean, you want to kick it off on materialistic and women with it being a red flag? You were talking about weddings and the size of the weddings.
Yeah, well, I quoted this article a long time ago in one of my books. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been the Tactical Guide to Women, but there was this finding that the more ostentatious a wedding is and the more money they spend on it, the lower the outcomes of the wedding, higher chances of divorce. Whereas if you have a more subdued, a simpler wedding, the divorce rate seems to be a little lower with those weddings. So apparently you did a Twitter post where you were asking for questions and somebody brought up materialism. And is that a red flag with women? Is that correct?
Correct. And I have a personal story to share. And I do know from some experience, the big ostentatious weddings versus the go to the town hall ones. The big ostentatious ones don't really seem to last that long, if I'm being honest. And there always seems to be a lot of conflict because she's always looking for more.
That doesn't bode well for Prince Harry. Or which one just got married? Was it Harry?
Yeah, apparently Harry and William are having a little bit of a tiff lately. I don't know what's going on, but it's like watching a train wreck unfold in slow motion. So we'll see how that one pans out. Maybe there'll be a tunnel in France that writes the final chapter. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, on this question of materialism, how are we going to define this? What is a materialistic woman? I guess she's more concerned with possessions than people. Is that what we're doing?
I think, my interpretation of a materialistic woman would be somebody that is never happy with what they have, and they're constantly in demand for bigger, greater things. The $40,000 Toyota, SUV wouldn't be good enough for her. She needs to have the supercharged Range Rover Sport. So, and it has to be in a certain color so that it outshines the other, mommies at the soccer practice, sort of thing. Like, that's my impression of a materialistic woman, right? The big giant wedding. Like, we can't have just, the 3-piece band at the wedding. We need the 7-piece with the brass and the strings and everything like that, right?
Yeah. And, I mentioned that I just moved recently and I was observing myself as I was moving. And, when you move, you get very focused on yourself and all of your possessions. And my wife and I travel up pretty light. We tend to be pretty minimalist, but even so, we still have a ton of stuff. And so I spent the last week thinking about myself and all of my stuff, and unavoidably. And that's really not a good space to be in mentally or spiritually even. And I think that's largely because one of the easiest recipes to make yourself divorce is to just stare at your belly button, or make yourself depressed is to just stare at your belly button, because looking at yourself is one of the most depressing things you can do if you do it for too long. And so this question of materialism, and you brought it up a couple of days ago, I started thinking, is it a red flag? Well, I don't know if it's a red flag, because a person can appreciate the finer things in life, and that doesn't mean that they have the spiritual side. And so if you think of this spectrum where you have materialism on one end of the spectrum and you have spirituality and a commitment to some sort of higher values on the other end of the spectrum, they're not mutually exclusive. And so I was thinking about this, is it a red flag? And I don't think it's a red flag. I think it's, a red flag to me is something like personality disorder or unfettered substance abuse, untreated, those things you don't want in your life. But someone who's appreciative of the finer things, that's a yellow flag to me. That means you need to start getting questions and inquisitive and start asking questions like, okay, she likes fine things. Does that mean she doesn't have a spiritual side? Does it mean that she puts the material things above other values? And so the woman that you described where she's never satisfied, that sounds like compulsive behavior to me that needs to be looked at. But if it's material in the sense that she likes nice things, well, I kind of like nice things. I don't like a lot of things, but I like nice things. And so does that make me materialistic? And does that mean that I don't have a spiritual side? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me pose this scenario to you. So in my 20s, I was not well off. I was pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I managed to have a car and a motorcycle and find a place to rent with 3 friends. So I was 23. I was dating this girl that was a few years older than me, and she was constantly nagging me about, why can't you be more like so-and-so? So she was comparing my worst to somebody else's best, right? Like, so-and-so has a boat. Why don't you have a boat? You know, it's because you're cheaper, you know, something, you know, to that effect. And there was one day where I just had enough of it. I was driving to get my groceries, and it was No Frills because, of course, I couldn't afford the high-end groceries at Longo's. So I was driving to No Frills, and she starts chirping me about, you're cheap, or you don't have the ability to spend money or buy me nice things or something like that. And I just grabbed the steering wheel. I don't know where this came out of, Sean, but I just grabbed the top of the steering wheel and I yanked it like this, and I did a 90-degree turn right down the intersection. There's no cars coming either way. I went back to my house, didn't say anything, pulled over, shut off the car. I opened the door. I said, get out. She looks at me. What? You know, like, we're done having this conversation. You're not going to sit here and insult me and berate me and call me cheap. I'm living within my means, and that's it. She got out of the car, went to the grocery store. About 5 minutes after I was walking down the second aisle of the grocery store, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and it's her. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing, you know, sort of thing. So, like, it's bizarre to kind of reflect back on that memory right now. But to me at that time, I don't know if it was materialism or if it was just somebody that didn't know how to, I don't know how to put it. How would you assess it, Sean?
Sounds to me like her values weren't concerning you. They were concerning your stuff. It sounds like she was more interested in what you give than what you provide in a relationship.
Yeah, it was more about the optics of what she could signal to her,
Right.
to her circle. And
right. So if her values are about, what do I look like on Instagram to my friends, then that's not a great set of values to marry into. Definitely. Or even date or have anywhere in your circle.
Yeah, I think it's a red flag when it causes conflict and problems like that. I think it's a red flag where, you know, guys get themselves in scenarios where they're constantly working their asses off to try to please their woman. And it doesn't matter what they do or say or whatever it is they put in place, it never seems to be good enough. Like, it's like chasing the horizon. You never get to the horizon because it keeps moving the closer you get to it. It's always the same distance away from you, right? And if somebody can't find happiness and contentment in something that they already have, in my estimation, it is definitely a red flag. I got a quote here, actually. I pulled it from an article. Here it is. No guy wants a materialistic woman. Even rich men or millionaire would not prefer a materialistic woman. If you had to choose between 2 good-looking women, you would most certainly choose a non-materialistic one. Materialistic women are like prostitute. Her happiness is based on material things and possessions, and if these are not provided, she will demand them. If you cannot satisfy her lifestyle, the relationship won't work. There is no love in this type of relationship, but you are basically trading your possessions and money with sex or companionship. If you look at most materialistic women, they are seductive women who like flaunting their bodies. It kind of goes on from there into the, you know, to the optics of what she looks like, the clothing she wears, the color of her hair dye, and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my question is, the question that I would ask in concerning a materialistic person or materialistic woman is, what would be left if all of our material stuff went away? And so if the BMW and all the things went away, would she feel naked? Would she feel like she couldn't go on Instagram or whatever and connect with her friends? Would she feel like she could no longer connect with you? Or would she say, oh, okay, easy come, easy go. That's not really what matters to me. I like this stuff, but I'm going to live without it, and build it back up maybe. But the question really becomes, what happens when the thing disappears? Whether it's alcohol, whether it's material stuff, whether it's sex addiction, whatever it is, when that thing goes away, you have some kind of hole, or you don't have a hole. If you have a hole, then there's something there that needs to be filled.
I've posted the call-in number 323-642-1618. I'm also going to give you guys the join link if you have any questions you want to ask tonight. You've got Sean and I on for 90 minutes. Sorry, I'm just going to grab this and copy and paste it. All right, here we go. If somebody could try the call-in number, I just want to make sure that this Blog Talk's working correctly tonight. Again, it's guest call-in 1-323-642-1618. And I saw somebody was asking, or a few people were asking about my T-shirt in the comments. See my T-shirt, Sean?
Yeah, I can't read it because my bandwidth is low. What does it say?
It says, warning, masculinity is so toxic, feminists cry.
Oh, those poor feminists.
A few people have said, you should do one in pink. That'll really trigger me. Here's the link for the T-shirt if you want to grab one. It's in my Teespring store. I got a few other cool designs coming out. Oh, sorry, the link doesn't work. It's too long. So you'll have to click in the description. You'll see it on your mobile device or your computer. All right.
Rich, we got an interesting question here from Christian. He says, do you think it's wise to get into a relationship if I'm in debt and still looking into the career I want? So presumably he's a younger guy, doesn't have himself squared away yet. And so,
yeah, well, I don't think, like, when I was 23, when that ex-girlfriend of mine was calling me cheap, I don't think, that's a time or place for him to do that. I mean, if she's got expectations like that, you got to date an older guy that's like got his shit together. He's over 30. He's made the money. But at 23, like, I just wasn't at that place yet. So I think it depends on how old you are, right? I mean, if you're a young man and you want to get involved with women, that's fine. But we often talk about it. Don't get into an LTR when you're under 30. Get yourself set. Lay the groundwork. Definitely don't get married if you're under that age, for sure. So it really depends on how old he is. Did he say how old he was?
Yeah. No, I'm just assuming and factoring out all that stuff and just paring it down to this materialism variable. Because I agree with you. You don't get married before you're 30. I guess there's two ends of the spectrum here. Like, you don't want a woman who's dating your potential, what you could be, because that says that she's sort of lost and her values aren't squared away. And you clearly don't want to be in a relationship with a woman who's never satisfied with what she has. So those are the two ends of the spectrum. You want the middle there where she's squared away on her values and she knows where she's going in life and she can join you in your life.
Absolutely. So I got some calls here. Do you want to switch over to calls?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I shortened the link for you guys for the T-shirt. So there's the T-shirt link. I did it on Bitly or whatever it's called. If you want to grab one of those, grab one. Helps support my content. There you go. Okay, where am I? Blog Talk. Here we go. So let's grab this guy. So 214. This is the first stab at taking a call in a while. Let's see how this goes. All right. Can you hear me, 214?
Yes, I can, Rich.
Awesome. Hey, Sean, can you hear him?
I was married for 20 years.
Yeah.
All right. And guys,
20 years.
Sorry. Whoa. Hold up a sec. Guys watching this on the broadcast, can you let me know in the chat if you can hear the caller A-okay? Caller, what's your first name?
It's Ned.
Okay, Ned. So can you just speak up just a tiny bit so we can hear a little bit better, because you're a little quiet in my headset.
How's that? Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Divorced after 20 years. Thought that I was in a really good relationship. She made a high six-figure income. I had a low six-figure income. Did not know she was materialistic until I struck out on my own to start my own business. And the money wasn't coming in as much. She quit her six-figure job 2 years into our marriage. So didn't really realize how materialistic she was until we started making less money. So probably the last 15 years, we were living paycheck to paycheck. And then once my entrepreneurship started within the last 3 years, she divorced me. And she said she could do bad by herself. So I was a little shocked. Got two daughters, both of them are teenagers. But I'm good. But I thought I had a ride and die chick, as you know the term, right? It didn't realize that it was based on the money. Yeah,
that's hypergamy like 101, right? As soon as the money dries up, so does her interest in you too. Sean, do you have any clarifying questions or thoughts on that?
No, so she stopped working 2 years into your marriage, and then you were married for another 18 years?
That is correct. But she did go back to working part-time at an educational institution to get money coming in. But basically, 2 years into the marriage, and let me add this on: she bought before she left her high six-figure job, she purchased a Lexus SUV and didn't discuss it with me. I know I don't want to rehash it all, but I 100% am responsible. Let me make this clear to the gentleman listening to me. This is a perfect example of a guy being so, I guess the term beta male, happy wife, happy life, house, car. I was so blinded. I don't hold her responsible whatsoever. She did what she wanted to do. I was the one that kept enabling the behavior. So I'm not blaming her one iota at all.
Got it. And is this more of an experience share, or did you have like a question to tie into that too?
Well, just material. She was a materialistic woman, and I realized that, at the end, that the finances were the thing that was keeping us together. It wasn't, death do you part and good and bad and all that.
Yeah, it never is. I mean, I did a lot of dating after I got divorced, and it was mostly divorced women on the market at that time, in the age range that I was dealing with. And that's what I found too. There's a lot of women that left their marriages because they discovered after a certain period of time that their husband was no longer competent, in the sense that they could, that they felt like they could provide a life that they were looking for. And like you experienced with your story, the state is now the head of the household. And the state is more than capable of replacing you as a man if you're not able to, be the legendary man that brings in the large six-figure income to give them the lifestyle they want. Because what they do is they just kind of sit back and go, well, I can get the kids and some money from him and I'll be just fine. Like, what do I need this guy for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. You said that you fell into that happy wife, happy life trap. What do you mean?
Well, I was raised, my two-parent household, and my dad was a great dad, great mom, stayed married, but he always said, the key to a happy marriage is, yes, dear, happy wife, happy life. And it's kind of, you keep your wife happy, whatever she wants. And I know that's an extreme, but I'm an older gentleman, and it's just that I'm a baby boomer, so I'm older even you guys, and it was just traditionally thought you open doors. She wants the big house. She wants the big cars. You don't say, hey, honey, you want to keep her happy. And as I went into this, and I'm telling you, it's rich in the Red Man Group and guys like you, it's so crystal clear now that women disrespect the heck out of you if you acquiesce like that. And it's only been recently that the light bulb went off. It says, you know what? I get why she doesn't have any respect for me, because I always said yes. And when I couldn't afford it any longer, what good are you? Because now you can't fulfill that to what you've always done. You're not providing like you used to. So I got to find the hypertrophy. I got to go up a level to get what I need, because you can't give me what you used to give me. So I get it. But that was me enabling her behavior. I'm not holding her bad about it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known about the Red Man Group 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's 1,000%. I mean, hypergamy floats, right? So if she goes from a $40,000 a year job up to a $90,000 a year job, and you're still hovering around $70,000, you're no longer good enough for her. You were good enough for her when she was doing 50, but the burden of performance is on you as a man. You have to continue to chase excellence in your life. You cannot relax. And not a lot of women have a lot of patience for guys that will take the jump into entrepreneurship and say, okay, I just don't really fit in the corporate world. I've been packaged off now a couple times. I'd like to take a stab at running something. And if you can't get it off the ground within a suitable period of time that, she deems it, makes you worthy, sometimes bad things happen and she unties the knot, right? So,
yes, sir.
It's incumbent on you. And it's why we always tell guys, like, don't get married in your 20s, like figure your shit out, like lay the groundwork for your life so that, you become red pill aware and you understand these concepts, right? And you read Sean's book, like Tactical Guide to Women, right? But yeah, that's a very useful share. I got a bunch of other callers waiting on right now too, dude. That's a lot. Okay. 2 and 4, I'm going to let you go. Thanks.
All right.
All right. So that looks like it's going well. Any complaints on the audio? I didn't get a chance to check the chat. It looks like it's going okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any complaints.
Good. Okay, so let's grab the next one here. 302, I'll put you on now. All right, 302. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, I hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just speak up a tiny bit. It seems like the caller's on the other end. The audio is a little low in my headset anyway, but I'm not seeing any complaints in the chat. But what's your question?
Yeah, so I have an experience with a question I'd like to tie into it. So I was dating the cousin of a friend a couple of years ago, and she happened to be about 4 years younger than me. And when we first started dating, it seemed, when we first started dating, I was pretty damaged at the time. So I really had no business dating her, but I did anyway. And then I found out about a month and a half into dating that she was a single mom, and I really felt uncomfortable with that. So then I eased off a little bit, but then, I told her, yeah, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I've dated single moms before, but I told her, I really, just want to do my own thing. I don't want to get too deeply involved. Right. So we would still go out. I would still take her out. I did the quote unquote gentlemanly thing and paid for everything. But, when I started bringing up, I would really like to see, I'd really appreciate, if the onus didn't fall on me to provide everything. I pay my own bills. And at the time, she had just moved in with her cousin because she had lost her job. She had lost her job and got a new job. And she got really offended by that. And after that, I started seeing her less and less. And then she came back, started asking me to go out, right? But I'd be like, hey, I'm in between paychecks, and or I'd have like a rough month when it came to work, a lot of bills, and she made a big fuss about that, And then she would pull herself away again, and then come back, and then the cycle would keep on going until the point where I was like, you know what? I really just want to, I just want to be friends. Like I gave her the I just want to be friends speech. And she was like, I don't know. Why are you being so selfish? Why can't you learn to give to others? This, that, and the third. And the question I would like to tie into that experience is, what are the best ways to test and identify when a woman is being materialistic or is looking for resources she can get, knowing that you're in a better spot than her early on, before she not becomes like a serious drain, but starts to become a drain on you, not only financially, but also mentally.
What do you think, Sean?
I like this question. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how to accelerate the vetting process. And one way to do it is, some of these questions, there's really no way to shortcut. You have to collect data. And so what you did was you collected data, and it took some time to do that. But there are ways to shortcut this. And one way that we talked about a couple of weeks ago was traveling with somebody. When you travel with somebody, you find out what they're about interpersonally. You find out what they're about with money. You learn a whole lot about them. And so maybe you take somebody on a trip when you're starting to get serious, and you collect a lot of data in a short period of time.
And I'll tell you what, it doesn't even have to be let's go to the airport and hop on a flight down to the Caribbean or, the Fiji Islands. I mean, put a tent in your trunk and go car camping and see how she copes with sleeping in a tent on the floor with bugs and spiders and preparing food and cleaning up dishes and, swimming in, brown, murky water sort of thing, right? I mean, there's any number of ways you can do it.
Yeah, the question really is about how do you collect data? And you can do it slow or you can do it a little bit faster, but you have to collect the data.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you're dating a single mom that's living with family, she doesn't have a place of her own, she's not able to provide, and she's keeping things like being a single mother a secret from you for a month and a half, you got a lot of red flags popping up real early on too, right?
For real. Yeah. And once again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, once again, I had made a mistake with this one, thinking with the wrong head, and that's my fault because I felt very damaged at the time, and I really just wanted to get some. And actually, she was like a solid 8, and I was like, damn, I really don't know if I should just let this one go like that. And thinking with the wrong head, I let her stick around for a little bit, and it didn't kill me financially, but it definitely became a thing where I was like, I really started noticing, I'm starting to feel used. My gut was starting to tell me, this doesn't seem right. You want to come around to have a place to stay. You want to come around to clean up and get something to eat. or you wanted to score some booze, and I was like, yeah, you know. But of course, start thinking in your own head, and that starts to become an issue.
Definitely, yeah. Well,
so how do you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Ask a question.
No, how do you get past that part when how do you stay conscious enough, even when you're in like a very damaged state, to think with the right head?
Let me ask you a question. You said she was a solid 8. Where did you put yourself at that time on a scale of 1 to 10?
On a scale, I probably put myself at around 6.5.
So why would a solid 8 be with a 6.5? Hypergamy dates across and up, right? So she was looking for something else. You know, she was looking for something that she thought that you could provide, probably money.
Yeah, because I was in a really good financial spot at the time.
So she was looking at you like an ATM then.
Got you.
How long was your intuition talking to you before you listened to it?
Say that again?
How long was your intuition talking to you before you listened to it?
I want to say a solid 2 weeks into dating. So 2 or 3 weeks into dating her, it started kicking in, because I started noticing it pretty quickly. But
yeah, so how did you go about ignoring your intuition? Did your friends tell you she was hot, or you just liking the sex, or what got you past that little voice in your head?
It was the sex.
Okay.
It was sex, without a doubt, because I was basically using that as like an emotional crutch at the time. The thing was that I knew both her cousins, because they were both close friends of mine. Her female cousin was like, yeah, she's all right, but you know, you just want to make sure that, you know, she doesn't try anything crazy. You know, she can get wild. She gets wild at times. And her male cousin, who I knew for even longer, was like, dude, she's a bitch. Like, I don't know. I don't like the fact that you're fucking with her. But I was like,
all right, so you ignored your intuition. That's a story as old as time, that guys ignore their intuition because the sex is good. I'm convinced that 100,000 years ago, there was some guy that got ate by a lion because he was ignoring his intuition because the sex was so good.
Oh man.
So yeah, don't beat yourself up, man. You're not the first one to do it. Just don't do it again.
Yeah. Well, you know, it could have been a lot worse. You know, you could have ended up with a kid with her or something, or she could have, you could have married her. You could have been on, the hook for alimony. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, you got off pretty good on this one, so I wouldn't sweat it too bad. All right.
Yeah. Well, that's why I led into my second question was, how do, in those kind, like I said, how do in those kind of states where even if I'm using sex as an emotional crutch,
listen to your intuition, man. It knows best. You've heard it speak to you and you ignored it. So that little voice, that's a whisper, you know, that you hear, that whispers, hey bud, you sure you want to do this? I think this might be problematic. Hang on, she's got a kid. She lives with her cousin. Wait, your cousin's saying bad shit about her too. Maybe you don't want to do that. You don't hear it until it becomes a shout. Right? Until it starts yelling at you.
Right.
So the next time you hear it whispering to you, pay attention to it.
Yeah. So I would chalk this one up as a success, because you now know what that little voice sounds like, because it sounds different to everybody. It shows up in your body, shows up in your emotions, it shows up in your thoughts, and no one follows exactly the same recipe. You learned what your intuition sounds like and what it feels like. So there you go. It's a win.
Boom. All right, bro. I'm gonna let you go.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Looks like we're working real good on this call-in setup. So call-in number is 323-642-1618. Again, the show is before the train wreck. Sean and I let's do the backstory, because I like to remind people what the show's about. We're having a drink, shooting the breeze. How the book sales? How's your experience been so far, Sean? Sean says, well, I really like to get to guys before they wreck their lives. And we're kind of nodding our heads going, yeah, how do you do that? Well, this is what the show is. We're trying to get to guys before they wreck their lives. I know a lot of guys will call in with the trauma or some experiences, which I think is still good. Like, what do you think, Sean, when people share those experiences?
I like these last couple of calls that we have where there's something that these guys have to teach other guys. I like that part of it. I also like when guys are calling in with a quandary that they're trying to muddle their way through.
Yeah. Bring them both, bring the experience. If there's a big lesson there, a big aha moment, bring those two. All right. We got Brian that joined on the hangout. Do you want to reserve the hangouts for people with video, Sean, or do you want to, what are you thinking?
Sure. I don't know. What do you think is going to work best? You're the tech guy.
Well, I'm thinking the phone calls for people that want to call in and, they're okay with not showing their face. And let's, reserve the hangout link for people that want to, have a chat and, show their face. So, Brian, I'm going to let you go. If you want to call in on the call line,
sounds good.
Yeah, hop in the queue. If you want to hit the join link, you can always do that. And, just have a quick chat or a conversation live with us. So let's go to 916 over here. He's been on for a little bit. All right, 916, how you doing?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Oh, our first lady caller. What's your name?
Our first lady.
Just call me NC.
NC. 16 episodes.
Yes,
our first lady, as Bill Burr would say. Go ahead.
I wanted to call. You were talking about weddings and if materialism plays into a part, and the more expensive the wedding, they don't always seem to work out. And it was a topic I recently talked about with my son. And so I thought I'd call in and perhaps if there's other young gentlemen out there around his age who could use a little bit of information or help. I told my son, if you're dating someone, he was dating an older woman than him recently and talking about marriage and things like that. And I told him to kind of consider how she phrases it, because she was always telling him, all I want to do is get married and have a family. I just want to get married. And I told him to kind of listen for the clues from her. Like if she says, does she want to get married or does she want a marriage? Because there's a really big difference between the two there. And
what is the difference as you see it?
Well, some women just want to get married. They want the wedding. They want the personal prom with the dress and the music and the, and to be the center of attention for the moment. And then there's the women who want to build a life with someone.
That makes sense.
You have to kind of listen to what her goals are.
How much older was this woman that he was dating?
My son was 19. She was 28.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
And so now I was telling him that if all her focus is on the day, and she never makes any references to committing herself and building a life with him, then that would be something he has to consider, like what her long-term goals were, where he was concerned. And, she can say she wants kids. I'm sure she does, and that's great. But it's like, do you want to have kids together, or she just wants kids? So I just was trying to tell him, listen to kind of the context in which she brings up things like marriage. And if it's all she wants is the dress and she's concerned about the flowers and the music and everything's got to be perfect, well, she should be focusing more on like the fact that this is one day and then the rest of your life is what you're building together. And that should be more where the focus is. So it was just something I was trying to tell him to take into consideration.
So you're worried about this lady's intentions with your son. Does the age difference strike you as significant?
Oh, it did. They did. He ended it recently. But
okay.
You were talking on the same topic that I was talking to him, and I thought I would call in and perhaps if there's another young gentleman out there, kind of not, he's dating a woman and she's really focused on getting married. And that's all she seems to be focused about is that day, that wedding day. That's all she wants.
Is your son like an alpha Chad?
What's her long-term goals? I'm sorry?
Is your son like an alpha Chad, good-looking, masculine guy, tall, V-taper?
He's just shy of 6'3". He's blonde. He has a little bit of a baby weight first, still in his face, in his cheeks. He's 20. He just turned 20 very recently.
I wonder what a woman at 28 hitting her epiphany phase would want with a 19-year-old guy. I mean, he doesn't have his life set, so he hasn't got money together, right? Like, is your son loaded or something? Did he get an inheritance?
No, we're not loaded.
So looking for the seed then. Looking for the alpha seed, I guess. I don't know. Bizarre. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's got red flags all over it. Like, why would you let your 19-year-old kid marry a 28-year-old woman? It doesn't make any sense.
No, he's done with that. But it was during these conversations that I was talking about that was alarming to me. And so I was trying to get to see a bigger picture.
Question, what did the father think of all this?
Absolutely.
What did your son's father think of all this?
Honestly, he wasn't as concerned about it as I was. The big difference between him and I. He's a boy. He'll figure it out. You know, we're not concerned about the pregnancy thing on our end because, unfortunately, my son knows that the consequences of having kids so young and what it can be. So he was 18 and it was his first real relationship. And so he just kind of got caught up with her for a little while. But he was always very open and honest with us about what was going on and how he felt, and which is why he came to me and was talking to me about what they were talking about.
So what's the lesson in this experience?
I'm sorry?
So what would be the lesson in this experience that we could share with other guys watching right now?
Listen to how she talks. If a woman's only focus is on getting married, that's her end goal. It's not building a life with you. She has to be able to be speaking to you long term. If all she's focusing on is the date, and the dress, the music, and the guest list, and it has to be perfect, and there's no room for compromise, and it's got to be this way, then that's where her focus is. It's not on you as the spouse.
So what would have happened to your son if he had fallen into this trap? How long would the marriage have lasted, and how would it have ended?
Honestly, maybe a year or two.
That sounds about right.
I believe. I'm sorry?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. And
cool.
So that was the vibe I was getting. So.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in. I'll let you go. Thanks for sharing the experience.
She wasn't thinking long term. Her focus wasn't long term.
No, it was all about having kids. Like I did this request a couple of weeks ago. Somebody was asking about something very similar to this, where the language that the woman was using that was looking to get wifed up. She was in her mid-30s and she was explicitly stating over and over again, I want to have children of my own. Not I want to find a great guy and have children. Not I want to get married. Not I want to fall in love or anything else, those things. It's I want to have children of my own. And that's always a red flag to me if I ever hear that.
Oh yeah, they need to be able to say, we, our children, we're going to raise them.
Correct.
This is our daughter. This is, and so on. And so like, it's little things like that though, that can be a real big insight to her long-term thinking from a man's perspective. And that's what I was trying to get across to my son.
Good point.
Because it was always, yeah, it's her kid, her son, her daughter.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for calling in. All right.
Of course.
Let's let this one go. And we have a few more lined up. Any closing thoughts on that one with, women that are using language like that to get married up?
Yeah, that language really struck me because we started off talking about materialism, and you got to be careful of somebody who talks about me and mine and
me, mine, my kids. You know, like children. Women see them as possessions a lot of the time. I mean, you'll notice that the way that they behave during a divorce quite often is they deem the children as their possessions because they came out of their body. There was a joke that I read on a few divorce forums when I was going through my divorce, and it was something along the lines of a guy trying to convince a judge, hey, if I go to the Pepsi machine and I put my money and I get my, Pepsi, is that my Pepsi or is it the machine's? Right? Because it came out of the machine, right? Because that's the argument that seems to go around a lot in the divorce community, is because women think they have the kids, that they have full rights to them all the time. And I think that's why she probably heard that language about, I want to have my kids, or I want to have a family sort of thing. Not with him specifically, or because he's the right guy. It's just if the right guy's shown up, then she'll take it.
Yeah. For sure. And sometimes if you're not willing to listen to your own intuition, there's people around you like friends and family, and their intuition is talking. And if you'll listen to them, sometimes they have good advice.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to another call. I'm going to post the number again. It's 323-642-1618. I'll drop the number in there again real quick, and we'll go to 503. All right, 503, you're on. What's happening, man?
Yo, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
So my nephew is 21 years old, and he is about to commit the biggest mistake. He just told me him and his long-term girlfriend are having a kid soon. And, I think he's going to do the classic, we're having kids, so sorry, can I swear?
Yeah, just keep it limited, though.
Cool. Yeah, he's doing the classic. I predict he's going to probably get married to her soon, just because that's kind of what the rest of my family has been doing. What do you guys think would be a good way to maybe convince him not to get married? I mean, and he's pretty stuck on having the kids, so I don't think, he's going to back out of that.
How old are they?
He's 21.
And how old is she?
About the same age, I think, maybe 20.
And what province or state do you guys live in?
We're in Portland.
Yeah, I don't know the
Home of
family
the other
law.
white man.
Do you know what the family law says about common law?
I have no idea, man. I have no reason to look into that.
Yeah, because they're usually common law rules. So as soon as you live together long enough, they're deemed married anyway. But I mean, you can't contract out of child support anyway when it comes to family law. So I mean, he's kind of locked into this chick right now. I mean, he might as well take a stab at it. I mean, what's he going to do? Walk away from her and the kid?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, she's not a bad woman to have. Like, she's kind of quiet. She doesn't talk much. She seems to cook a lot, but and they're actually a pretty cute couple. But like, I can't help but like want to just warn him, like, be careful, man. You're playing with fire, But I also don't want him to like be mad at me, because I'm his uncle, and if he thinks I don't support him in his decisions, he's just gonna.
Well, it's too late to give him a copy of the Tactical Guide to Women. It's probably too late to give him a copy of like the Rational Male or something like that. So I'm not really sure what you're hoping to convince him of. I don't know. Like, what do you think, Sean?
I think that, if you could convince him of anything, convince him to build a time machine and go back and not get her knocked up. But that's not really an option. So when there's a kid in the picture, I tend to get a lot less concerned about the adults. I'm concerned about them as a couple in the sense that they are parents for their children. So if his morality is saying, I need to be a father to this kid, I want to get married, I want to create a 2-parent family, then good for him. He's committed to that. So if it was my nephew, I would back him up on that. I wish he hadn't done it, but he did it. So make the most of it.
Are there any red flags that you're spotting with this woman?
She's kind of, I mean, he's, betatization by 1,000 concessions or whatever it is. Like the other night we were hanging out, having a couple beers, and he's helping me build some stuff I got a mobile camper van thing. And she comes in and just, whispers something in his ear. And then the next 5 minutes, he's like, oh, but I gotta go, man, and backs away with his tail between his legs. So
that's where you can help him out. Listen, if you're going to help him out with anything, help him make this relationship work out for himself. Don't let him fall into these traps. Let him, share the stories that you're hearing on here, share the Rational Male with him. Talk to him about how to make this relationship work for the sake of his kid. And it's not going to be walking around with his tail between his legs.
Yeah, somebody just put in the comments, teach him to be a man. So you've got to tell him basically how to stand up and lead, because he's not leading. If she's walking in whispering in his ear and then he's kind of like chasing her off like a little puppy dog sort of thing, following her into the next direction, doesn't sound like he's got control of the frame. And over time, that's just going to erode. They'll probably have their 2.1 kids. By the time she's 30, she'll get bored of his ass and she'll bounce because the state can take care of things. So he's got to demonstrate the masculine virtues of competence, strength, all those things that kind of tie into what women look for. So he's got some work to do. I mean, otherwise he's going to end up back to the red pill because of trauma.
Yeah. And, I think if he was my nephew, I would talk to him about the fact that he's at a fork in the road right now. And if he goes down one path, which is what society tells him to do, which is happy wife, happy life, and all that nonsense that leads to misery and failure, if he starts walking down that path, it's difficult to get off that path, and we know where it's going to end up. It's going to end up right where Rich just described. Whereas if he starts walking down this other path, and he's 21, so he doesn't know jack shit about this path, but he's got to learn it. He's got to learn how he can be a man in this relationship, how to make her comfortable, how to make her safe, how to make her want him, how to become a father, how to make the child feel safe and comfortable and go out and do the best in the world that they can do. Like, he's really got an option here, and it's going to be 1,000 choices. It's not one choice that he makes now. It's going to be 1,000 little choices over the course of the next few years that determine which path he's going to go down: happiness and a great marriage, or misery.
Right.
Tell him to follow. Tell him to follow one of those Facebook pages, one of those private groups for single dads, and just watch the conversation that goes in there, because that's what he's going to be up for.
Oh, geez.
I'm not even kidding, dude. Like that'll wake him up.
On the right path.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you guys.
All right.
Appreciate
See ya.
it.
Man, how do you get somebody unpregnant and turn back? I mean, there's no time machine for that, right?
No, there's not. But I admire that the kid is willing to stick around, and man, if he can get on the right path, he'll be fine.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, that's hard written into one of Rollo's iron rules, right? Is to always be in control of the birth. And like, that I do these coaching calls on the Clarity platform. People book my time. They have problems that they always come to me with. I mean, they're not coming to me with good news often. And there's so many guys that I've talked to that have made some really retarded choices where they knock up the wrong girl. Like there was this one guy that I talked to one time that knocked up this girl at a massage parlor, like one of these rub and tug places, but she was a foreigner, and he was trying to figure out how to get her deported from the country as his possible solution, right? It's like, guys, be in control of the birth, like smarten up. Really, you got to like wake up, especially in your 20s, right? All right, we got a bunch of callers here. Let's hit. We got 210, so we'll go to you next. All right, you're on the air. How you doing?
Hey, Rich. Hey, guys. I'm gonna make it quick. I know you've covered this in prior videos, but I think it's good for people here and maybe need to update it. But the topic of shit testing women, I know you've covered other things, but I'd love to hear more things. If you can update it, that would be great.
On the topic of shit testing women specifically, what's the question?
Well, I mean, if you have anything more to add, your prior video talking about unlocking the doors. I think that's something that back in the day with the old school keys you referred to. And also that bringing up topics of prenups or bringing up, hey, can you pay for this coffee for me?
Yeah, those are the main ones. I got two videos on my channel now. Yeah, like I got 2 videos on my channel, and there's 3 in each video. And I mean, like even if you use 2 or 3 of them, they should give you some sufficient data points where you can assess what she's all about. I mean, women don't like to be shit tested, and I mean, they really hate it when they get shit tested, but they love doing it to guys all the time. I mean, like life is a big shit test. I said the other day on Twitter, I said feminism is the biggest shit test of all time. Because it's what men have been living through, right? So, yeah, those 2 videos there have more than enough. I mean, if you pick 2 or 3 out of that, run those and see how she responds to it. I mean, like you'll get plenty of data points off that.
All right.
Cool, man.
Keep it short, sweet.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. All right, let's let him go. Oh, we got somebody in Toronto. Okay, let's go to 647. All right, we got a Toronto dude or woman calling in. How you doing?
Hello, hi. Is this Richard?
Yes, it is.
Oh, sorry. Well, thank you, Richard. I have a question for both of you. Can you hear me well?
Yep, go ahead, fire away.
I'm in a dilemma. I don't know if I'm a Muslim guy. I live in Toronto, and the thing is that because you guys always mention that you shouldn't marry before 30 years old. So usually in our religion, you're not allowed to have sex before marriage. So are we supposed to wait until then, or what do you guys suggest? I mean,
well, what you're talking about is when religion collides with the red pill.
Pardon?
Well, what you're talking about is when religion collides with the red pill, then, right? So, Sean, his question is, how do I handle the red pill theory that you don't, wife anybody up until after 30, but my religion says don't have sex with anybody?
I guess you got to make a tough choice. I mean, look, there's the big 4 variables. There's sex, money, religion, and children. And if you're not on board on all 4 of those, then the chances of any kind of relationship and marriage working out is not great. Sex, I know some people say that you shouldn't have before marriage. I just know that if you don't have sex before marriage, then you're increasing the risk, because that's one of the primary causes of divorce. And so you're adding a great big unknown variable by not getting a sense of what each other is like before you make that kind of commitment.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to buy a car before you test drive it, right? You got to test drive it. So, but with that being said, though, at the same time, go ahead.
I just had I read I don't know if you Stephen Molyneux also had a research paper, and like he had a whole video on like women and the amount of times they would have sex, and
That's exactly what I was going to hit on next. Yeah, yeah, and that's well researched. Right, right. And I'm going to let you go just because your audio is not very good, so I'm just going to drop you here, but keep listening.
Yeah. Rich, I didn't catch what he said there. Can you recap it?
Yeah. So Stefan Molyneux did a video that basically broke down a lot of research that when women have more sexual partners and they lose their virginity at a younger age, the chances of them pair bonding with somebody in a long-term monogamous marriage is extremely low. Somebody that's had 50 partners for example, and lost their virginity at 13 is less likely to stay in a monogamous marriage than somebody that lost their virginity at 25 and has 2 partners. I think after 2 or 3, the rates start to decline significantly. I think after 10, it's like you might as well forget it. I mean, if she's had more than 10 partners and lost her virginity, younger than 20, pretty much you're going to be part of the divorce stats. So what he's asking is, my religion says don't get into bed with a woman, but the red pill says figure out women before you marry them and set up your life, and don't do anything stupid, before 30. But then this research paper, and there's lots of research paper that, confirm it as well, is that the more sexual partners and the younger they are when they have sex, the less likely they are to be in a long-term monogamous marriage. What do you think about that?
I think there's a lot of variables here, and it's hard to tease them all out because I know that there's data out there, and I'm not familiar with it, about the success of religious marriages. And so the question that makes me wonder about is if you give up the sex before the marriage so that is a great big unknown variable before you get married, is that outweighed by the benefits and the structure that the religion is bringing into the relationship? And I don't know the answer to that, but all I know for sure is that it's a great big variable. That's a big meatball hanging out there if you don't know what she's like sexually.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know what you're like sexually.
Yeah. I mean, you got to test drive the car before you buy it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people going to be flack in the religious community. You can't do that. But there's also people in the religious community that have said to me 1,000 times, religion is a breeding factory for betas, right? So you got to take it with a grain of salt and just kind of understand that, without stepping on too many toes by saying this, but we live in a different world today. Books that were written a long time ago that are supposed to govern behaviors and relationships don't necessarily apply in the world that we live in. So you got to use your judgment, right? I mean, long talk. I don't really want to give a big religious thing on this one.
Yeah, and we can just keep it to the fact that sexual incompatibility is a huge cause of divorce.
It is. And I have an aunt, believe it or not, that married somebody. She says, before they didn't have sex before they got married. She found out the sex was no good. She had to divorce him.
Yeah.
It happens, right? All right, let's go to 801 over here. 801, you're on the air.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing good. Can hear you loud and clear. What's your question?
Hey, I recently met a girl, and I looked through some of your videos, and I wasn't sure if you covered it super thoroughly, like you have some of the other stuff that I found. But just as it relates to a girl that you meet that is broke, this girl I met, she had some major medical problems, and she was in the ICU for a while, and so she just had mounting medical bills from about a year ago. And in word, she has an independent mindset, and she talks a lot about it, but she's just racked up a ton of bills. And I wondered about that big red flag as it relates to
how much debt does she have?
Her it's probably 10, 15 grand.
What is it? Credit card debt, student loan debt? What kind of debt is it?
No, most of it's all medical debt.
And the follow-up question to that is, does she take ownership for it, or is she pointing and sputtering at other people saying, well, I incurred this because of, fill in the blank?
No, the wonder was she's brought it up in a couple of conversations, and I wondered if she was hinting towards me kind of coming to the rescue to help her with those. But, I didn't. I immediately, I kind of made it clear that, that wasn't that wasn't my spot and it was hers, and she accepted it. It just seems to be like there's not really a plan that she has to get out of it herself. And it just seems like it's going to linger.
Yeah, there's no question that debt is a red flag.
thinking.
I mean, you don't want to take on a woman that's got debt in tow. It's like taking on a woman with kids in tow. It's just a different kind of liability. It's just a different kind of red flag, right?
Yeah.
How old is she?
She's 30.
She's 30, and she doesn't have a plan for this. If you'd said that she was 21, I would have thought, okay, she's 21, $10,000 is a huge amount of money when you're 21. I can see being overwhelmed by that, not really know what to do. But at the age of 30, I would expect her to have some kind of plan for this debt.
I have a question for you. You're talking about medical procedures. Are we talking about cosmetic medical procedures, Botox, breast augmentation, or are we talking about like something to save her life because her kidney was failing?
Yeah, it was a kidney type thing.
Okay. Well, the way that I deal with debt, and I'll tell guys this over and over again, is don't make your problems my problem, right? She's incurred, financial problems based on choices, lifestyle choices, whatever it may be. 10, 15 grand ain't a lot of money. Most people should be able to find a way to pay that off. And pulling that along at 30 years old makes me question what kind of other choices she makes. Like, what other red flags are you looking at here?
Well, I mean, she's divorced. She has 2 kids as well, so she's trying to be a mom and work. And
do you have kids?
She doesn't. Yes, she doesn't make a ton in excess to have an aggressive plan, but yeah, I mean that's part of it too.
Do you have any kids yourself?
Yeah.
How old are they?
3 kids.
How old are they?
12, 10, and 8.
And how old are her kids?
12, 10, and 8.
And how old are her kids?
10, and 4.
And how old are you?
37.
Yeah, dude, move on, man. Move on.
That's why I'm calling.
Yeah, it's time to let this one go. You got anything else to add to that, Sean?
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily move on. I would say first see if she's amenable to a plan. Like maybe she's just overwhelmed by this. She doesn't know how to approach this. And if you offer her some kind of approach and she shoots it down, then all right, she's telling you something about herself. But yeah, there's a lot of complications here, and I can understand why Rich is saying move on. This is a complicated situation.
I mean, like, you got to also understand too the source. Consider the source. I'm also known as a single mommy slayer. So, when Sean disagrees with something like that, it's good to have that sober second thought. But my view on it is like, why would you deal with that? You got kids of your own. You got life for your own. You don't have debt like she's dealing with. You don't have to solve her problems. You're not playing Captain Save-A-Ho. There's lots of women out there at 37 you could date that aren't going to bring this kind of baggage to the table.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. Yeah.
All right, dude. Thanks for calling in. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. All right. I got a bunch of other callers on. How are we doing for time? Got half an hour still. Okay, let's see if we can tear through a few more of these.
I just got called blue pill, Rich. Damn, that hurts.
Jeez.
You stray from the orthodoxy. I don't care what your orthodoxy is, man. If you stray from the orthodoxy, somebody's gonna call you the enemy. I
got to send you one of my t-shirts. I got to send you one of my toxic masculinity t-shirts, man. We'll get you straightened right out. All right. 646. We're going to throw you on. All right. You got a question or experience to share?
A bit of a question.
All right.
So I have a brother who's younger than me, and I've noticed that he's talking about getting out of his career that he's in. He wants to do something different, but he's married and he has 2 kids. And I'm thinking, how do I tell him or make him aware of this? Kind of like the first gentleman that called in, how do I let him know that, hey man, maybe you should ride this out until your kids are older, maybe, or at least kind of be aware that there's a lot of women out there that may not have patience for that. Like, obviously he picked this woman and I think she's pretty cool, and I have no way of knowing what kind of a person she is really deep down inside. But from my experience, I've experienced a lot of what the first guy said, you know, that women do tend to go away once you kind of hit a rough spot. So how would I break that to him? Because I don't want to kind of taint his relationship either.
Well, you can kind of approach it from the perspective of, hey, look, you know, I know a lot of guys, here's an experience share. I know a lot of guys that have gone through the divorce machine because they stopped chasing excellence, because they were unable to display competency skills to their woman, which she was looking for. Women will only stick around so long as they deem you useful. Like that's what Briffault's law is basically. Briffault's law states, if I were to distill it, men are only useful so long as they prove themselves useful to women. And as soon as they discover he's no longer useful, she'll bounce. And that's contradictory because you go through a big religious ceremony, you invite 200 people and you have like $150 plates and a band and a DJ and all this bullshit. And you say, till death do us part, and richer and poorer, and sickness and health, and blah, blah, blah. And, these guys take that. And okay, I said I do. So I'm going to get consistent sex from her all the time. She's never going to turn me down. She's always going to love me no matter what I do. She's always going to be by my side. But that's not true. So you kind of got to share it from like an experience point of view is what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, yeah. So basically, yeah, I was just trying to, I want to kind of inch him into this kind of MGTOW kind of thing, but the thing is that I feel like that it might be the wrong thing to put him into because, right now he has a happy relationship. Things seem solid for the most part, but, you kind of see where I'm going at this. Like once that box is open, there's no going back kind of thing. That's like,
the thing with the MGTOWs is they have observations that I agree with, but they don't have any solutions that I agree with, right? Like their solutions are take away, women's voting rights. Well, how are you going to do that, dude? Like, what's your solution to that? I don't get it. So drop the MGTOW thing with them, but share more of the experiences of what you've seen and kind of like try to red pill them that way if you can.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thanks. Let's let that one go. I got a super chat here. I saw it pop up. There was no question. Actually, there was something in there, but it was retracted. But thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. We're kind of slow in the super chats tonight. Been a quiet one. All right, let's go to the next call.
Hey, I want to throw something in here real quick, Rich, if you got a second.
Go ahead.
So I was reading this. I'm reading this book called The Book Thief with my daughter. We just finished it, and it's a story about this little girl in World War II, and she ends up in a foster family, and she develops this very close relationship with her foster father. And there's this one quote in there where she's talking about how she respects her father. And I'm going to read this little paragraph for you. And this is written from the point of view of a little girl, right? And she says, the science of Papa's trade, he was a painter, brought him an even greater level of respect. It was well and good to share bread and music, but it was nice for Liesel, the daughter, to know that he was also more than capable in his occupation. Competence was attractive. So this is a book for children, essentially, talking about the fact that competent men are attractive. And this quote, I just wanted to share it with you because I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. Once you start to open your eyes to the reality of the world, you start to see cues and signals everywhere, books, magazines, news, movies. I was watching Game of Thrones the other day. I'm like, oh, that's some red pill truth right there. Let's go to another one here. I got 480. All right. 480. You're on. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Good. You got a question or experience to share?
Yeah, I was calling in. They were talking about kids earlier. I'm actually the guy called you the other day about getting cuckolded, basically.
Oh, you were the call that we did over the weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so Sean, this will be a good one for you because I actually told him to call in to see if we could get your feedback on it. So tell him the story.
Give me a little backstory.
So, all right. So basically, I was dating this girl back when I was, sorry, man, I got a weird social anxiety thing going on. I didn't know I had. All right.
Do you want me to tell him the story?
So, no, I got it, man.
Okay, go ahead.
Needed to breathe for a second. So I was dating her about 3 months into the relationship, found out she was pregnant. I proposed, got all my shit together, and we had a couple breakups. And then we got back together, I re-proposed, and found out the kid's not mine. And I stuck it out. I don't know why. Just I feel obligated to this little girl, and it's a daughter. The kid is a daughter, ugh. But I felt obligated to be there for her, and now we've split up, and I'm just, I'm going to go see a lawyer to see what my obligations are, but I'm also considering like maybe trying to be in this kid's life because I've been raising her for 4 years, and I'm just kind of a mess right now.
Okay, so let me just fill in a couple of blanks for you as well. So she was a single mom when he met her. She's got a son. I think you said the boy's what, 9?
No, he's 6.
Okay, so she's got a 6-year-old. She meets him 3 months into the relationship. She's pregnant. She tells him that it's his kid. He finds out later on with a paternity test it's not his kid when he starts to notice that the child doesn't look like him. Okay, obvious signs and signals the child looks nothing like him. So he's cucked now at this point, and they have split up. And he was asking me. I mean, my take on it basically is, Ron, I mean, if you don't have any financial obligations, leave it, create your own family, let this go. But he was also talking about getting some help, with a therapist and whether or not that would work. So there's a couple of ideas that he was kind of tossing around. So I wanted to get your feedback on this one too, Sean.
Yeah. How old is the kid?
She's 4.
And she attached to you?
Yeah.
And you're attached to her, sounds like.
Very attached.
So this is really complicated. This is a morality question. I mean, I guess there's a legal component too, because I think that in some municipalities that if you've been raising and acting like the father, then you're treated like the father by the family court. I don't know that to be true. I'm not a lawyer, so.
Did you get some clarity on that from a family lawyer?
I have an appointment with one, but I wasn't able to see one over the weekend. So
Okay.
At this point, I don't know. I don't think I'm in Arizona. I don't think they're that. Honestly, I have no idea, but I don't think they're that hardcore about giving everything to the mother type thing.
Yeah, and there was a few other things that she lied to you about as well. Like there was a lot of red flags going on here. Like she's misled you on a few occasions. I mean, the question is, what do you do in a scenario like this? He's got the morality issue of, manning up and being this child's father, but this woman's got more red flags than a Chinese Communist parade. He came into the relationship as a single mother. She lied to him. She misled him, not just on the cuckolding part, but on a number of things. So he's also asking, well, can I let this go? Like, can I remove myself from the moral obligation that I feel to be this child's father, even though she's a psychopath?
Yeah, she sounds like she's been engaged in some pretty evil behavior. And man, this is such a morality question. I feel like we need a priest on here, whatever religion you are, to provide some structure for this. Because, all right, so here's a woman who's engaged in some evil behavior and tricked you, and then here's this little girl who's completely innocent, and you two are attached to each other. And if you walk out now, it has some kind of effect on her down the road. And unfortunately, you're in a position where you get to live with that, which is unfair and it really sucks. But where's the real father?
Well, I'm guessing the real father's the same father as her son because the two kids look alike. And she decided she didn't like him and just kind of cut him out of the kids' lives. And I don't know, the guy never took her to court or anything, so maybe he didn't give a shit. But her and her family basically banded together to get him out of her son's life.
Yeah, this is really classic weird. Alpha seed, beta need, right? Now, did you get to see the little girl over the Easter weekend?
No, we did have. Oh yeah, that was the other thing.
Yep, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we had plans. Like we set a set schedule for like, all right, I'm going to see the little girl on these days. You see her on these days. This holiday, we're going to split up the weekend so she can see my side of the family, Friday and Saturday, and then she'll be back home for Easter on Sunday. And then so I confirm all this on the Tuesday, and then Wednesday, she texts me and she says, "Hey, forget all that stuff. I'm taking the kids to California." And I said, "Well, we had a deal. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?" And they just took him out of state. So
she has no respect for him as a father anyway, right? I mean, she's making unilateral changes to the custody arrangement that she's claiming is going to work. I mean, my take on it, dude, is like, yeah, I know you've invested 4 years into it, and I know that you think that she's your daughter, even though she's not. But at this stage, she's already proven to you beyond a shadow of a doubt how this is going to go down over the next or over the rest of the children's lives. And these kids aren't even yours.
Yeah.
You know my take on it. I mean, like, my take would be find a therapist, get yourself unplugged from this, situation that you're locked into. Is it like, can therapy help a situation like this, Sean, or is it pointless?
Well, it's ripping off the Band-Aid for him. Here's what I would do if I were you, and I'm trying to imagine myself being connected to this kid. I think in your situation, like Rich just laid it out, this woman is showing you how the relationship is going to go for the next, 12, 14 years. Like, it's not going to be on your terms. The kid's always going to be a pawn, and the kid's always going to be chattel and treat horrible situation. So what I would do if I were in your situation is go to a child psychologist if you're thinking of part ways, and just ask, okay, what's the best way to leave this kid's life? What's the best way to say goodbye that's going to do the least amount of damage to this little girl?
Yeah, that's a good point. Sean, you might want to kill your video because your audio is really clipping out quite a bit. So maybe just kill the camera and see if that fixes it up a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I caught most of what you said there. I think
Okay.
you're basically saying go talk to a child psychologist and see like what's their take on how to leave the child's life. So you're both in agreement that I need to get out of this situation, basically.
I would. I mean, like, I understand you got emotional attachment to this scenario, and I can't blame you. But at the same time, like, just look at the writing on the wall, man. Because what you're seeing right now is just the beginning, and it's going to continue on, and it's probably not going to get any better. Like, she's a train wreck, and if you don't have any financial obligations to child support, alimony, or any of those things, and you can walk away scot-free, I'd run, Forrest, run is what I would be doing.
Yeah, and I'm picking up on the same stuff that Rich is picking up on. Like, what this kid needs is a good mom, and there's no way for you to give this kid a good mom.
Cool.
Well, yeah, that's true. But yeah, I guess I got to dig deep and figure out, because that's the other thing. I don't even know if I can handle that kind of thing. Like what it's going to do to me and my family, because it's not just me that's going to have to leave the kid. It's my parents and aunts and, all the people I've brought the child around, and it's just going to be a big blow to the whole family,
Yeah, it's dude, I can't imagine what that would be like. Like, that would suck. But she's told you exactly who she is, and if you don't have the obligation and you can walk, I'd be running like Forrest.
I gotcha. All right, man.
All right, brother.
Well, all right, brother. Thanks for having me on, and I'll talk to you again sometime. Hopefully with better stuff.
Good luck. Do me a favor and shoot me an email and let me know what you do.
Okay. What's your email? Or where can I find it, rather?
It's on the channel. It's just entrepreneursandcars@gmail.com. Just let me know who you are when you email me, because there's an autoresponder for a bunch of stuff for the most part.
I got you.
Cool.
All right,
All right, good luck.
All right.
Good luck, man.
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I feel bad for that guy. We got a couple of super chats here. Stoic Red says, how should I handle my son, mid-20s, who wifed up a social justice warrior with some bipolar and other issues? I can see the issues on how they interact, but he's in love and blue pill AF. Train wreck ahead of him. Well, that's a classic question. How do you red pill so and so because you see the train wreck unfolding? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, like, guys like that make those bad choices, that are living in those environments. It almost seems like they got to hit the wall. They got to go through the trauma for them to start to wake up. You can start showing signs and signals. Share some experiences like we've talked about before. But I don't know. What do you think, Sean? Like, is there a way that you can unplug somebody?
No, I think you tell stories and you take the soft approach. I mean, if a guy's willing to listen to the hard approach, you take the hard approach. But most people aren't willing to listen when they're headed down their path and they see nothing but a sunny sky down there. So yeah, you tell some stories and you plant the seed and let them make their own decisions.
Got another super chat here. Davy says, Doctor, what do you mean by S3X incompatibility and divorce? Do you know what he's talking about? Did you mention something that I didn't pick up on?
S3X?
He says, Doctor, what do you mean by S3X incompatibility and divorce?
Oh, sex. He's probably using code there, so we don't get in trouble.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Just that sexual incompatibility is a major cause of divorce.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you can't get it on in the bedroom, you're not going to have a long-lasting relationship.
Yeah, and women complain about it too. Like you were telling a story about, I think it was you telling a story about a woman who was dissatisfied with somebody in their marriage. So it's not just men that get dissatisfied with the sex.
Yeah. All right. There's another super chat. Dan, thank you for that one. He says, how do you deal with passive-aggressive women who cut you off when arguing instead of discussing problems like adults? This is a good question. I've been drawing the line and ignoring her calls to show her I command respect. Yeah, you definitely want to do. So what he's doing is called a cold next. And, a hard next is a soft next. A hard next is where you basically just, delete the number and block them, sort of thing. And a soft next is you just take like 2 or 3 days and you kind of just ignore them and let them kind of like, sit on the bad behavior. So his question, Sean, is how do you deal with passive aggressive women who cut you off when arguing instead of discussing problems like adults?
I always deal with passive aggressiveness the same way, which is you meet passive aggressiveness with directness. And so I tend to say things like, I notice when I say such and such that you do such and such, and that's not going to work for me. So what are we going to do about that?
Yeah. I always like to go back to stand-up comedy. I can't remember if it was Chris Rock or somebody else, but somebody said something along the lines of, you can't argue with women because you use logic and reason, and women aren't going to let little things like logic and reason getting in the way of winning an argument. I think he's leaning more on like the BBD, like the personality disorder type of women. But at the end of the day, I think Sean's straight up right. Draw the line in the sand. Let them know what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate. And if you have to walk out of the room or leave or go to the gym or do something, if you're living together, do it. I mean, if you don't live together, hang up the phone and end it. Just say, look, I've made my position clear on this and it is what it is. And then just do a soft next for a couple of days and let them sit on it.
Yeah. And, sometimes people get passive aggressive because that's all they've seen and that's all they know how to do. So sometimes it helps if you draw the line and say, here's what I would like you to do instead, and see what they do with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Got another super chat. Let's try to get to the last one here before we move back to calls. How can you spot an alpha widow? Thank you from Australia. Keep up the amazing work. You know what an alpha widow is, Sean?
No.
So Rollo has a blog post on alpha widow, so you can search for it. It's out there. Alpha widow is basically a woman that is that was in a relationship, married to perhaps it might even been their first. It can be any number of those things, but he was the strong, virtuous alpha by which she measures other men by, going forward. So if a woman's with this Chad when she's 25 and, 5-10 years later, she's still in a sexual marketplace, she's still dating, she's still looking for somebody, she basically sizes up every guy to this dude sort of thing. I think you'll know it, I think you'll know if you're with an alpha widow because she's always going to shit test you to see if you're competent enough to line up to whatever line in the sand she's using to measure her alpha widow experience with, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if there's like a psychological term for that or something that you've experienced in that way, Sean, or is that just not like new to you?
Yeah, that's new to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but it's not new to me, the idea that somebody can't get over somebody in their past. I mean, that's
essentially what it is. I mean, it's just measuring up new guys to the alpha that she is no longer with, and that's why they call it the alpha widow. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here. All right, we got like 11 minutes left, so let's see if we can get through these. So 971, you've been waiting for a while. How you doing?
Is that me?
That's you.
Hi, good. Apparently I'm a unicorn that hit the wall, according to you. I'm 62.
Okay.
And I still get these alpha-looking men that are widowers hitting on me and telling me they're madly in love with me in less than 2 weeks.
Okay.
I tell them about you, but they act like they're never even going to listen. You get your work cut out for you. What else do I do?
So sorry, your question is, what do you do about these thirsty betas that are putting you up on a pedestal?
They look like alphas and they're putting me up on a pedestal. They have children. They're widows.
Okay. Sounds like you got a pretty good deal going on there.
Yeah, but it's kind of scary.
Why is it scary?
I've not had to, because they're not the betas, and the betas have always been after me, and I always reject them. And then these guys are, older than them. They're like 58 to 60, and I'm 62, and I keep telling them they can date much younger. Why are they after me?
Well, it's probably because you're declining them. That's probably part of the reason why they're attracted to you in that sense. I mean, people want what they think they can't have. So what makes you a unicorn?
Ew. Okay. Oh, well, no piercings, no tattoos. I own my own home. I just recently got into debt from school, but I've been keeping my finances pretty well up, and yet I'm over 35, not the
Okay.
baby maker.
I'm not sure how to answer your question. Your question is, I've got these thirsty men that are putting me up on a pedestal and I'm not attracted to them, but you're calling them alphas, but they sound like betas if they're doing this.
Yeah, that's my dilemma right there. They seem like they're alphas, but they're acting like betas. Do I just jump the bones and lose them, or what?
Well, you're a grown-ass adult. You can do whatever you want.
But thanks. You do have your work cut out for you. I will keep aiming them at you.
Yeah, like I get that you kind of send them my direction. You're like, check out his stuff, but guys that are plugged into the matrix and still subscribe to the old social contract of putting women up on a pedestal, they're not going to, like, my stuff is just going to offend them. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you've pointed them in my direction, they've watched the videos, they're probably like, why are you even recommending that I watch this stuff? This guy's a loser. Right?
Never thought of it that way, because I think you're right. You're intelligent.
No, I get it. And I have
Okay.
And I have a fan club of red-pilled women. Like, I get it. Like, I have these red-pill groupies, right? And some of them hate me and some of them love me. It's like a 50-50 split. You like what I talk about because you're attracted to the conversations that I'm talking about, maybe the optics of who I am. But at the same time, these dudes that are putting you up on a pedestal that you're calling alphas, they're not alphas if they're thirsty betas putting you up on a pedestal and you're 62. You're older than them, and you know full well that they can date younger than you. And I'm not saying that to be disparaging. It's just, hey, enjoy it. I mean, if you're 62 and you're getting that much attention, have fun.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let her go.
No.
You didn't really hop on that one, Sean. You're just kind of like sitting off in the shadows there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. She sounds frustrated that she can't find a red-pilled man out there.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, the vast majority of men are plugged into old social contracts that don't really work. And, you know, she's watching my stuff going, okay, well, this guy gets it. Why can't I show him a video and he'll watch it and he'll get it too? And the thing that people don't understand, it's trauma that leads men to understand these sorts of scenarios, right? It's trauma that makes them go, okay, I'm going to sit and listen to this bald bearded asshole and see what he has to say, right? That's when they're ready to hear it.
Well, sounds like she's trying to build an alpha and
exactly.
Becoming a kid like that.
Yeah, and all she's doing is she's building a better beta, right?
Yeah.
All right,
I feel bad for her. She's looking for something that she's not finding out there. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple more callers in 5 minutes. Let's see what we can do. So 609, you're on.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate all your contributions. You saved my life because you led me to Rolo, which made me red pill aware. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So I have a very, very interesting situation. I'm a single father. There's no courts involved. I've been away from my daughter's mother for 2 years now. And what actually led me to the red pill was I was very blue pill conditioned. And when my daughter's mother cheated on me when I was traveling for work, I came home and she said it was just done. And I didn't understand why until 3 months later, when I was moving my stuff out of the house that I bought, when I discovered a card that was sent to her the day that she left me that said, you know, you're the best baby, XOXO, and it was on Mother's Day. So that really crushed me to the point where I almost committed suicide when my daughter was in my presence. I actually fell to the floor crying, and I don't know what prompted her, but my daughter crawled into, because I was in a different room, but she crawled right into my chest, and I was like, I got to do something about this. I mean, it was to the point where you know, her mother would walk through the door, look at me, and just stare and say, "What, are you still butthurt?" And, you know, I was like, I couldn't believe it. You know, I spent 4 years with this woman. So anyway, I started watching your videos, reading Tomasi's book, and for the past year, my life has just taken off tremendously in so many different ways. I couldn't even imagine back then. Now, the problem that I'm having today is I am red pill aware, but I'm still dealing with my daughter's mother. And it gets to the point where she gets in these relationships and I start moving on with my life, or I am moving on with my life. But for instance, like 3 weeks ago, I'll get a call at 3:30 in the morning of her calling me and crying and saying, "Hey, if I send you my location, can you come pick me up?" Now, she's never done this before. So my mind is going wild thinking, is she hurt? Like, this is my daughter's mother. My daughter would never forgive me if I just hung up the phone and said, deal with this situation yourself, especially at that time of the night. So I pick her up and she's drunk and she's crying over and over and over, saying her life isn't okay. And her life isn't okay since she left me. And so I didn't understand that. Never asked any questions because I'm red pill aware now. You know, women never want full disclosure. So I just kept my mouth shut and I just let her, yap her mouth until she sobered up, and I dropped her off, which I suffered the next day at work because I didn't get any sleep. Now, fast forward to last night, I found out that, I didn't understand why she called me and why I had to jump out of bed. But then I understood last night when I got a text message that her boyfriend ended up breaking up with her because, quote unquote, she is used goods. That obviously she has issues and she's used up goods. That's what she said. Now, I didn't even answer the text, and I was like, whatever. But here's the problem that I'm having. Every time I seem to be moving on with my life, even though I'm red pill aware, I have these situations with my daughter's mother that keep sucking me back in. And it's not like I can just say, hey, poof, you're out of my life, disappear. I have to sort of deal with it. And I try not to get my emotions involved because, again, that's a beta male. I got to maintain frame and let it not bother me. Okay, that's her, women are, I understand women behavior, and so I got to let it be. So how do I prevent myself from being sucked into these situations? Almost like I would even hate to say this about myself, but maybe even being used as an emotional tampon, quote unquote, like you said, like you take the trash out, you leave it there on the curb. You don't go back out to the curb and dig through your trash. So I can't necessarily do that. And when we see each other, we have like zero communication that goes on between us. It's like, hey, drop the daughter off, I receive her, and then I drop the daughter off, she receives her. And there's really nothing that goes on beyond that.
How old is your daughter?
I get these weird situations that happen to me that keep sucking me in. How do I prevent myself from going through this, losing my mind that's confusing me, constantly trying to shift me back into this blue pill state of mind?
How old is your daughter?
She's 3 years old.
Oh, wow, she's young. Yeah, so if the phone rings in the middle of the night, it's her. You got to answer it, right?
Very young. Exactly. So otherwise, I would sleep with my phone on silent.
Yeah. Well, do you want to hop on, Sean? I'm just going to think about this one for a second.
Yeah. It sounds like you're obviously struggling with maintaining the boundaries with her. And I think one way to look at it is to always find that third option when you can. So she calls you in the middle of the night, you got to answer the phone. What are you going to do? You got to do something. You got to respond, but it doesn't have to be you that shows up. Maybe if your boundary says that you're not going to rescue her in the middle of the night, maybe you have some other things in your back pocket, like she's got a sister, you've got a buddy that can go help her or something, but so you're not making that face-to-face contact with her, because it sounds like you've gotten into this dichotomous space where you're either sucked into her world or you're not, and there might be some third options that you're not seeing.
So question for you, who's looking after your daughter while she's out getting loaded? Who's taking care of your daughter while she's out getting loaded? Like, is your daughter with you or is she with her?
All right. So this brings me into the next issue, and this is why I tried, and this is the third option that was just being discussed. So here she's a bartender, and you know, I have a master's degree. I'm well off. I make really good money, but she never really did anything with her life. So she's a bartender. So according to her, she's always working. But women, as we understand their behavior, well, at least now I understand the behavior after reading books and watching her videos, et cetera, she will lie and manipulate. She even did this when she was with me, to her parents, saying that she's at work. She'll get cut from her shift at like 8 o'clock. She'll go in at 3, get cut at 8, and then she'll just go out partying the whole night while her parents think she's working until 3 in the morning.
And her parents are looking after your child?
Watch her in the evenings.
Yeah. So here's what I would do.
that
I
is
mean,
correct.
if you know your daughter's with her parents and they're responsible people and she's out getting smashed, your phone rings and says, hey, if I give you my coordinates, can you pick me up? Your answer is no. Don't make your problems my problems. Call an Uber, do whatever you got to do. Is our daughter okay? Yeah? Okay, good.
Okay.
Fuck off.
So, all right, so that answers that question. But how do I prevent myself from being sucked into her manipulative ways of...
By setting boundaries. You just don't get sucked into it.
Conform.
Yeah. You're the one that got left by her, right? Because she was banging somebody else while you were trying. Yeah. So whenever that happens, there's always a leave-or and a leavee, and the guy that gets left, or the person that gets left in the relationship, usually has a little bit of a harder time getting over it or getting past it. And because you guys have a kid together and you did your vows till death do us part and blah, 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 you're still kind of like unplugging from what had happened. It's going to take a little bit more time, but you got to set clear boundaries, man. Like if it's got nothing to do with your child, like if it's got nothing to do with school and extracurricular, scheduling for a birthday party, Easter weekend, whatever it is that, you know, has nothing to do with any of those things, you do not respond to it. And you set the precedent by making it clear that you do not make your problems my problems. You're a grown-ass adult, stand on your own feet. I'm not here to rescue you. Find somebody else to deal with it.
Yep, absolutely. You know, last night she said, well, I'm in all this debt. It's because of you. And I said, I did nothing. I bought a house for us. I bought you a car. I put you in the school. I was beta. I did her homework for her. I did everything for her. And, you know, her debt is her debt.
And that's the problem. And you're used to that conditioning. Like you have to unplug from that conditioning that you're used to, because you're still used to serving her, right? Another really good line to use is, I don't work for you anymore. Okay, so say that over and over again.
Say that again.
I do not work for you anymore.
Gotcha.
Okay, it's like,
now, see, so here's another, Rich, here's another fine line. Because there's no court system involved, we decided to do everything without going to court. So I get my daughter on every other weekend, every other 2 days out of the week at nighttime. And I Venmo her money every single Sunday for my daughter. So I'm afraid to set boundaries that would cross her mind to piss her off, only because I'm afraid that she's going to take me to court. And I don't want to face that fear, I guess you can say. Is that a problem?
where do you live?
New Jersey.
Okay, and how long have you been separated, you know, divorced for? Like, what's this new world order been like for the last year or 2 years?
Past 2 years, Venmo every single Sunday, trace my transactions.
Okay.
Because her credit was so bad, she couldn't even get a bank account.
Okay, got it. And if you were to take like a 2 week period, what percentage of the time is your daughter with you? Like, is it 50%? Is it 30%?
I would say it's closer to 40%.
Okay, so find out in your
And New
state.
Jersey has a calculator that you can use online, and I calculated it out even at the worst, and I see what I would pay, which isn't substantially more than what I'm giving her now.
Well, it's not just the money. It's also, once they become the primary caregiver, they can make unilateral decisions without your consent. So if she wants to fuck off and go across the country and take your daughter, she can do that, right? So you want to find out in your state what shared parenting looks like, whatever the line in the sand is. Like here, it's 40% of the time. So if in Ontario, you're with your child more than 40% of the time, like 41% over a 2 week period, it's shared custody, and she can't do anything without your consent. So that's a big part of the equation too. It also reduces the child support payments significantly. So there's that component. And if you've been doing that for the last 2 years, you've got a precedent set where you've got, you know, access to your child, and if she were to try to remove that or change that, you could I mean, you would definitely have a leg to stand on. I don't know how well you'd fare in court. I mean, you know, pretty much anytime you go in front of a family judge, for the most part, you're not going to fare very well. But if you maintain the custody arrangement that you have, even if you have the opportunity some nights where you know she's working and she's going to leave the kid with the grandparents, maybe offer to say, hey, you know, I'm happy to take her, you know, tonight, or I'm happy to take her Friday night, right? You know, just drop her off over here, or I'll pick her up after daycare, school, kindergarten, you know, whatever it is. I mean, you could even move yourself into a position if she continues to be this like drunk and irresponsible, partying, you know, like you got records of her passing out in ditches or whatever the hell she's doing, where you got to rescue her all the time. You could probably become the primary caregiver, and she's not going to have a leg to stand on.
That's what I was thinking. So I shouldn't. So is this what you think is holding me back? Is the fear factor of like family court? Because as
it's not just that, but I mean, you also think that you still work for her.
Foster care.
Yeah, dude, like I get the family court thing, but I mean, you still think like you work for her. Your phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning. You see her name on the phone, you answer it, and you drive out to save her ass.
Right.
You have to stop doing
only to find out it was a guy that threw her out.
Right.
Just the blue pill guy.
Right. So what you got to do is start documenting these incidences of this bad behavior, because if you do have to go to court, you've got a long log of, hey, these are all the times that she was drunk, not taking care of the child, and lied about, you know, working when she was out partying.
Okay.
Right. But again, say it with me. I don't work for you anymore.
I don't work for you anymore. I love it.
All right. Start with that. Okay.
Thank you, Rich.
All right, brother. I'll let you go.
Man.
We're kind of over right now, so I'll let you go. Thanks for calling in. 786. Sorry, I can't get to you tonight. Try us next Monday. I'm going to let you go too. Sean, any closing thoughts?
On that last dude, well, he had no interest in hearing from me, so that's fine. But if there's other guys that are out there in that kind of situation, his fear is not unfounded, because if he can, number one, get clear on what his boundaries are, and then, which I think is going to be tough for him, and then number two, be consistent in maintaining those boundaries, which I think is also going to be tough for him, then he can expect what's called an extinction burst, which is where, you know, if you've been feeding, or this is every animal that has two brain cells to rub together. If you feed a rat a pellet every time they push a button, and then suddenly you stop, what's going to happen is the rat is going to push the button furiously for a little while. So the version of that is that, yeah, she's going to get mad. She may threaten, she may take him to court. That extinction burst is like a little temper tantrum to try to reestablish the old order. So yeah, he does need to watch out for that. And I think your tactical advice is good. Like, start documenting now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a very dangerous situation. I mean, like, he's really got to unplug from that relationship, because he's still stuck on her. Any guy going to rescue his ex-wife drunk on a Saturday night at 3 a.m. is just stuck on her for sure.
Yeah. And he's got a job in front of him that, you know, it's a tough job. I don't know if he's up for it, which is I shouldn't say that. Maybe he is up for it, but he needs to define those boundaries, maintain those boundaries, and do it with finesse. Do it in a way that, you know, like when my father would kick someone out of the bar, he would do it in a way that made them feel good most of the time. And if he can find that finesse where he can say no to her, but she's not pissed off about it, that she actually thinks he's doing her a favor, then that's when he's operating at ninja level. So I hope he can do it.
Yeah, this was a kick-ass show. I'm glad we got the call-in system working again. So final notes, merch in the Teespring store. If you want to grab some stuff like this, it's all there. We're back next Monday. You on for Monday next week, Sean?
You bet.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll see you guys next Monday. Smash the like button. We've got close to 600 people watching and only 145 thumbs up. It really helps me a lot, guys, if you let YouTube know that this content is useful. I appreciate all the positive feedback in the comments. That's been great. But please smash the thumbs up button. And if there's somebody that needs to see this broadcast, please share it with them. Where can they find you, Sean, if they want to look you up?
DocSmith.co.
DocSmith.co. And if you haven't read it, if you're new to these shows, Dr. Sean T. Smith is also the author to the Tactical Guide to Women. You can find this on Amazon. It's also an audiobook as well.
And Twitter at Iron Shrink.
Yeah. Give him a follow on Twitter as well. All right. So we'll see you guys next Monday. Have a good night. Peace.